Stefan Bondy, Stefan Bondy, the Knicks beat reporter for the New York Post, back on the program. Great to see you again. Give me the one word you would use to describe the Knicks season.
Success. I mean, listen, I know that there are some fans who are very upset with how it ended in the conference finals, but this was the first conference finals for this franchise in 25 years. It was a new core. They won 51 games, which was the most that they've ever done since 2013. They beat the defending champs in the second round. Nobody gave them a shot against the Celtics. They beat them in 6 games. And they ran up against a Pacers team that I thought a lot of people underestimated, including myself. This was one of the best teams in the NBA after January 1st, and they were hot and they took it to them. So, listen, overall, you like what you saw from Jalen Brunson, certainly. There were some chemistry issues that need to get ironed out. I thought Mikal Bridges struggled throughout the season, but overall, I mean, listen, given the history of this franchise, I think it was a success.
Okay, but you're being very rational here.
Fair.
Nick fans aren't rational here, and they want changes made. And if it's Tom Thibodeau or it's Karl Anthony Towns, give us a crystal ball what you think will happen and
Mhm.
should happen this offseason.
So I think they are going to try to be aggressive in trying to upgrade this roster. I don't see the player out there that's going to make a lot of sense. I don't think they have the assets to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think Kevin Durant, when you look at the salary that he's making and what you have to do to match those salaries, makes a lot of sense when you're trading for a 36-year-old injury-prone guy. I get it. He's a great offensive player. He'd be great in the playoffs, but first you need to get to the playoffs. And in order to do that, you're going to have to trade two players who eat up a lot of minutes for the Knicks. And I just don't see how you can do that in a Tibbs system when you don't have much depth. And now all of a sudden you've traded two players on your roster for an injury-prone guy that's not going to make it through 82 games. That trade doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Right now, listen, things develop in the NBA landscape that shock you. I don't know who's going to become available. I don't know who's going to shake loose, but the way I see it right now, I think the best move for the Knicks is to just add depth. I think that was a big issue in this series, especially in the Pacers series. They just were overwhelmed by the amount of Pacers depth and players on the bench. They couldn't match that, and I think they have enough assets right now to go out in free agency, look at the trade market, and find people to boost up that bench. I think that would be the move right now.
How surprised were you that people were surprised that Karl Anthony Towns can't play defense?
It's shocking to me. I don't understand why the fans were so shocked by this because this is who he is. He's 10 years now in the league. He was drafted in 2015. This is who they got Mikal Bridges. They got OG Anunoby to mask the defensive deficiencies of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And we saw it play out exactly how I predicted it would unfold. He's a great offensive player. He does things that 7-footers shouldn't be able to do to put the ball in the basket. But he's slow, he struggles with pick and roll coverage, and he's not a good defender. He fouls too much, and he probably complains too much about fouls. So that's Karl Anthony Towns in a nutshell. That's who he's been. I don't understand why Knicks fans expected it to be something else, but it seemed like after that Pacers series and after the playoff run, everybody was taken aback by how poorly he played defensively. That's who he is. The Minnesota Timberwolves, to compensate for Karl Anthony Towns' defensive deficiencies, went out and got Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
That's something that the Knicks might need to explore is moving Cat to the four. You saw it in the playoffs. Mitchell Robinson started at center. That's something that I think the Knicks have to decide whether they view Cat as a 4 or a 5.
Handicap the East moving forward. We don't know Tatum's time frame of coming back. Do the Cavaliers keep their core four together? Philadelphia's a mess. Atlanta, I mean, if you're going to Milwaukee, uh, I mean, there are not that many teams that are really good in the East, but if you're going to handicap that, what do you think happens in the offseason with any? Do you think Giannis is moved? Let's start there.
I do think Giannis ends up being moved. But I think it's like a 60-40 proposition because if the Milwaukee Bucks don't see a deal that makes a lot of sense for them, I would not pull the trigger if I'm them. we saw the backlash that Nico Harrison got by trading Luka Doncic, a player that the fan base had absolutely adored. To me, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the greatest player in Milwaukee Bucks history. He's their number one asset, really their only asset. If you look down their roster, if you give him up for something for pennies on the dollar, that franchise is going to be in a really rough spot. So I get it. You feel like you owe Giannis Antetokounmpo something because he dragged your franchise to the championship. I get it, but listen, if he comes out with a list and says I want to go here, here, and here, but the Bucks say, well, those teams aren't going to give us what we want, then if I'm Milwaukee, I wait until the trade deadline at least. So maybe that doesn't happen in the summer, but I do think it happens at some point because you have a team in Milwaukee. They're not going to have Dame Lillard. They're going to struggle next season. So let's assume Giannis, let's say he goes out west. Let's say he goes to Houston. Now you're looking at an Eastern Conference. I mean, it would be anyway, but you're looking at an Eastern Conference that's wide open. You mentioned Jason Tatum. He's probably not going to be available for most, if not all, of next season. The Pacers are probably the cream of the crop still, and I think I would put the Knicks at number two. I mean, the Sixers you mentioned, they could make a big leap, but you never know with Joel Embiid. So yeah, I go one, Indiana, two, the Knicks, and then it's really just wide open.
The Thunder are the biggest favorite I think we've seen in the NBA Finals, aside from Golden State, maybe in 2016 or 2017. But it feels like nobody knows who they are. That this will be almost a, hey, let's introduce you to the OKC Thunder here coming up in the NBA Finals. And sort of that way with the Pacers as well. But I don't know, is this the blueprint? Can you see other teams trying to emulate what we've seen with the Pacers and or OKC?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit both teams are different. I mean, what OKC did was they just completely, gutted the roster and rebuilt and did it through draft picks. I don't, it is a blueprint. I think though that you can look at the other side. Remember the 76ers did the same exact thing when they went through the process and it did not work out. So listen, it's a treacherous path. Obviously, OKC has the number one guy in the business of GM in Sam Presti. I mean, the guy's a genius. So it really worked out for him in getting the right pieces. SGA is obviously a very phenomenal player. Um, as far as the Pacers, I think that Tyrese Halliburton and is become. I think New York made him almost. I mean, what he did with it at the Garden, I think put him on the national landscape in a lot of ways. He obviously was there before he played in the Olympic team, but listen, this guy has become something different because of what he did at Madison Square Garden, and I think that fans, got to know him a little bit better and got to know his game a little bit better. So even though people are looking at this series saying, it's two small market teams, not a lot of interest. I'm sure the ratings aren't going to be as good. It is going to be an exciting, thrilling series. I think the playing styles are fantastic. I do think OKC though is the better team.
Great to talk to you. I know covering the Knicks, there's always a pulse there. It was kind of a scary pulse, though. What was it like leaving after that loss? Well, they lost in Indiana.
Yeah.
What was it like in New York, though?
It was insanity. They lived and died with every win, with every loss. They rioted either. I mean, rioted is a strong word. They partied outside, and no matter what, no matter the result. But I did talk to Clyde Frazier during the Pacers series. This is a guy who's seen it all, and he said this is the wildest I've ever seen New York for this team. So that's saying something, right? I mean, they've been starving in New York for a successful Knicks team. Because if you look at the landscape, you got in New York, you got people who are Yankees fans, you got people who are Mets fans. They're divided. You got Jets and Giants fans. But in New York, it's the Knicks. I mean, you don't tell me about the Nets. It's the Knicks. So they unite in that way, and we saw that throughout this playoff run.
If the Nets would win a championship, would there be a victory parade in New York?
That's funny you mentioned that. I believe I covered the Nets for a little while, and this idea was brought up whether they do it at the Canyon of Heroes or whether they do it in Brooklyn. And I believe the mayor, Mayor Adams, was campaigning on the idea that he would have the parade in Brooklyn, so they wouldn't even do it in Manhattan.
We don't have to worry about them winning a title.
No, no, we don't. They're a long ways away from that. They blew their shot with KD and Kyrie.
Stefan, thank you. We appreciate your time.
All right, thanks.
All right. Stefan Bondy, he covers the Knicks for the New York Post.